founder of Next Gen Roundtable. So welcome everyone, thank you for being here. Here, Next Geners will meet with game changers to learn about opportunities for our future. Thank you to Coach Kemper and the Institute for Education for helping make my idea possible. You're a great coach on many levels. Thank you. A big thanks to Mr. Schulte and the WISP Journalism Program for all the support and help throughout, and also thank you to the IFE journalists who worked around the clock, I know, to make this happen. Mr. Froomkin, we're so happy that you're here today as our inaugural speaker. We appreciate that you took the time to come speak to us, even though you have a lot of demands of your time as a senior Washington correspondent at Huffington. It's an addictive site, by the way. Holding the powerful accountable has become your trademark. Many of us are thinking about careers in journalism and are looking forward to hearing your thoughts and advice about accountability journalism and the future of online journalism. We also hope that you will take some questions. Everyone should have Mr. Froomkin's bio. I'm sure you've read it. So let's get started by welcoming Mr. Daniel.
Well, thank you, Dan, for setting this up. Nice introduction. Thank you to Liz. To Coach Kemper, if you don't know, is one of the most fascinating people in Washington, so get to know her. I'm pleased to be here, and Coach Kemper was just describing the goal of this sort of series to the headmaster who's here in America, and the idea being that it's sort of an opportunity to look forward to the challenges ahead about sort of doom and gloom about the present or the past, what have you, and that fits in very perfectly with sort of my view of journalism today, because there is an awful lot of doom and gloom when you get together with journalists of a certain age, i.e., mine, or older, and a lot of them sit around and just sort of despair about the state of journalism today, and basically everybody comes to their latest sign of the apocalypse. And it is the apocalypse for traditional journalism, for the journalism that I knew when I was your age since then. And so whenever I come to talk to young people who are even moderately interested in journalism, I have a pretty simple one-word message to you, which is congratulations, because it's such a world of opportunities for you. You guys will be developing sort of the first, the sort of post-apocalyptic journalism, is the way I sort of put it. The institutions are dead or dying, but journalism itself is still enormously valued and still an enormously important, valuable profession. And I think that the internet audiences really want what journalists create. But how we build this thing, I think, will really be very much a function of what you, the sort of first generation of post-apocalyptic journalists, figure out. I don't know. When I was younger, I was just love these sort of post-apocalypse stories and movies like Mad Max. So you guys are like journalistic Mad Maxes with your laptops and your camera phones and your Twitter accounts and your Facebook pages and God knows what else you're doing that I don't even know about yet. So serious journalism will last, will continue. In what form, we haven't yet figured out, and that's your challenge. And what's particularly exciting about it is that it's going to be so much more of there's going to be so much more opportunity for individuals to do whatever they want to do. When I was in high school or college, I mean, the clear sort of professional path was to go work for a small newspaper, and then maybe a few years later start working on a newspaper, and so on. And while you were there, sort of pay your dues, learn the ropes, learn to write these very traditional, what we call inverted pyramid news stories, and all these skills I actually do think are still very important. But now there are so many fewer barriers to entry. If you want, you can go to some country and just sort of write there, or you don't have to spend 20 years becoming a foreign correspondent for a newspaper chain. the key, I think, and I do want to turn this over pretty quickly to Q&A, because I don't know exactly what your, what sort of things you want to talk about, Mark. So, is that you guys can build your own brand by building your own expertise. So rather than sort of defining yourself by institutions, define yourself by your interests and by your knowledge and by what it is that you can write or speak or shoot about that you know a lot about, that you're learning more about, that you're passionate about. The one aphorism that I try to claim credit for is no one wants to read a word blogger. In newspapers, we are often told to sort of eliminate our voice and write very passively and very neutrally. And what works on the internet is people who care about what they're writing about. And it doesn't mean that I'm advocating, people who just become screaming partisans. I think, reality-based information is still valuable, but and sometimes giving both sides when there are two legitimate sides to an argument, but not sort of trying to split everything down the middle and say I don't have an opinion, I don't have any expertise. You guys decide. That doesn't work anymore on the internet. So find areas where you care about and learn about them and write about them. And whether it's as an amateur or a professional, that's the other thing. Is that you don't have to be a professional journalist to do journalism these days. So I really think this is a unique moment for journalism. I think that right now we're just trying to figure out how to solve problems that we never anticipated a decade or two ago. And I think a decade or two from now, we may have solved them. The communication may be so omnipresent that we'll look back and we'll say, well, duh, isn't that obvious? That's the way you solve this. Social networking, completely alien concept 5 years ago. Now, you can't imagine a world in which social networks aren't a big part of the information flow and the way that people share information and get information and the way that people find things out. You have to look no further than what's been happening in the Middle East, starting as far back as Iran, but obviously now in Tunisia and Egypt and the ghastly things that happen in Libya and so on, to realize that new ways of communicating are emerging that are, you can't stop them. Some people may be able to, maybe try to stop them. Obviously, they turned off the internet in Egypt for a week, they turned it off in Libya and I got it. There are there's scary aspects of this. I was reading, I don't know if it's done this in the Middle East, but back a few months ago in Belarus, they had an anti-government protest, and the authorities demanded that the telephone companies turn over a list of all the people whose cell phones who could be found, whose cell phones were in the square where the protests were. So there's also possibilities for repression and for suppression of information. But I think over time, information yearns to be free. Right now, it's just a real incredible cusp moment for everybody. And let me see if there's anything before I turn it over to Nick. For those, since I'm a twist, for those of you who speak more than one language, an extraordinary ability to have, an extraordinary talent, extraordinary value now as communication goes on, as people want to understand. English, of course, is the main language in that, so being able to translate into English is very useful, but also being able to participate in non-English forums gives you an incredible leg up on what's going on, and an incredible opportunity to tell stories and hold the powerful accountable. So let me actually talk a little bit about sort of accountability journalism, which is the other, and on top of being sort of an internet, somebody who really has a big faith in the future of the internet. I think journalists are basically put on this earth to do two things. One is tell stories, and the other is to hold the powerful accountable. And we too often don't do either of those things. What I've tried to do in my career, certainly since I started writing about the White House for the Washington Post back in 2004, was really do my own accountability journalism and encourage other forms of accountability journalism. So I wrote my own stuff. I also linked to other articles that I thought were really good, and I also gravitate towards stories where I think people in power have let us down. I think those are really important stories to write. And also, I should put in a plug for my other job, which is I also work for the Neiman Foundation for Journalism at Harvard, where we have a website called Neiman Watchdog. And the goal of that website is to actively encourage reporters to do one watchdog. So I can talk about any of these things. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, what you guys are doing. And if you could actually, before you, it's all too big a group to go around the table again. Everybody introduce themselves. But I'd love to hear about you before you ask me your question. So what, where you're at school and what you're doing and what brought you here today. So, let's be the first to raise their hand. I'll pick on some. It is school, right?
I'll start.
Great.
I'm Christina Valentine. My younger is my mother. Obvious. I'm a journalism student, and I read journalism. I want to come to you and hear a little about your life story and just really hear the positives in the future, because especially being a senior, all I'm hearing is negative things. So it's just really great to hear a positive twist.
Great. Well, it is really interesting, easy to be positive when you're working at Huffington Post, which is an amazing organization. I just joined a year and a half ago, so to the extent that it's incredible, I don't take credit. I'm just very happy to be there. A lot of people in some of the older institutions criticize us for being just aggregators and parasites and what have you. And in fact, I think what we do is we provide them a model of how they can save themselves, which is to write about things with passion and clarity and voice, to not pretend that everything you can sort of split the difference. But also at the same time to take advantage of the fact that it's the internet. I mean, the organization is amazing. I started off as Washington Bureau Chief, and I came in and there was no organization. There's almost no hierarchy. It's completely different as an organization than anything I've ever been accustomed to. And I realized that this had grown out of the internet. And if you look at the website, it is truly a site of the internet. It's incredibly diverse. It has so many different interests. It has, as Ariana puts it, the low brow, the high brow. People come to us for, maybe they come to us for titillating slideshows, or maybe they come to us for the news. But either way, they're there and they're participating. A big part of it is the community. People are not just reading it; they're also commenting and they're linking and they're sharing. And the place is really seems to work. And as you may know, we actually got bought out by AOL just a couple weeks ago. And so now we're trying to figure out how do we. And it's the most amazing. It's a fascinating merger because AOL bought us, but basically put Ariana in charge of all of the content stuff. Said we don't, I mean, AOL, it's like prehistory for you guys. The AOL started off as a dial-up website before there were, before there was basically the internet as we know it with cable and DSL and wireless. It was huge then, and ever since then it's just been in a tailspin. It didn't have a reason to exist, and they were trying to sort of create content, and there was no reason for people to read it. And now we're going to give it a voice, but we're also in the midst of absorbing an organization that's like 100 times bigger than we are. So, and which has that hierarchy. It has these assistant editors, and product managers, and general managers, and product and project managers, and assistant vice presidents, and vice presidents, and senior vice presidents. And so it's a kick in the pants sometimes. Glad you're here.
Come on, you guys, we got all these budding reporters here. You're supposed to ask questions.
Yes, it doesn't take as a stupid question. I mean, that actually, this has nothing to do with being either online or Huffington Post, but it is one of the most important lessons that I ever learned as a journalist, which is that there is really no such thing as a bad question. And even sometimes the simplest, sort of most obvious questions are the best ones. Forgive me, because I'm not telling you this story. At one point, long after the California budget was supposed to be due, our budget reporter, the Orange County Register, had scheduled a vacation for a month after the worst case scenario, the budget had been finished. And in fact, the budget was still not done. So I came up, knowing very little about the budget, surrounded by this, back then the Sacramento Press Corps was really an enormously large group of reporters, now very small, but see, moments of wistfulness do enter into my vocabulary. But, they were asking these incredibly complicated questions every day about, the budget give back from the city sales tax, so and so. And every day I would get up and I would ask the same question of the governor and the Speaker of the House, and I'd say, what's taking so long? And every day that was a soundbite that everybody had the next morning, because that was really the only thing. So anyway, yeah, so another thing is a student. Yeah.
Oh, okay. My name is Lisa Yu. I am an intern for the Institute for Education, and I'm a junior at Richmond Montgomery High School in Montgomery County, Maryland. So my question is, could you relate the future of online journalism to the future of reporting for international events such as the uprisings in Egypt a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about it, I can't tell you how it's going to end. I mean, it has just been amazing. I mean, all the things all the rules that have changed, nothing has changed more than the concept of covering international affairs. And again, this is slightly predated me in Huffington Post, but during the revolution, or the attempted revolution, the protests in Iran, there were almost no reporters from mainstream news outlets actually in Iran, and those that were not really in a position to write very freely because the government censors were all over them. And so by far the best source of information was tweets and Flickr and Facebook and just sort of people sharing their stories with each other. And so what emerged was the need for a new kind of journalism, which was sort of intelligent aggregation, where you try to sort of judge the validity of things, you put things in context, you say, here's a tweet, but we haven't corroborated it. Here's 15 tweets from the square saying the same thing. Here's a picture that, here's the same event actually taken from 4 different angles by camera phones. So aggregating and narrating and interpolating what the social media is coming out with is all of a sudden has become an absolutely essential part of covering these conflicts. And in fact, just by the end of the Iranian uprising, the New York Times was doing it. So at the same time, I think it's also increased the people's interest in these things. It's so easy to not care, especially in the United States, to not care about what's going on anywhere else. The human drama of what's going on over there is what goes on in any country really is starting to emerge through this. And so I think that you're going to find that there are going to be every country in the globe is going to have some journalists or bloggers or journalist bloggers or citizen journalist bloggers who are focusing on that and who can act as interpreters for that country to the rest of the world. And I mean, all sorts of different forms are going to come up. And then I also think that the blog is a great way to let people describe a country when they're just there, when they're there as reporters, and rather than feeling they have to go and find a specific news story, news peg. And ultimately, I mean, I start to sound like a real idealist, but countries don't go to war. People don't go to war against other people who they know, people who they feel a sense of empathy with. You go to war against an enemy who is who you have very broad stereotypical notions of, and the more that we can learn about each other, the less likely we are to go to war with each other. It's that simple.
My name is Tina Thurmer. I'm a journalism teacher here. And so do you think the protests in Wisconsin would happen the way they did if we hadn't had all of this stuff?
Yeah, that was Cairo. Let's look at Madison, right? I don't know. I mean, to be honest, the one group that's always had an ability to bring people out is labor. And so I think a lot of people would come out anyway. I don't think the excitement it would have been as exciting to watch with the social media. And again, sort of another one of these ways that is emerging to cover not even necessarily from your own observations, but from you're aggregating all these different observations and other things in your reports. And that's what's made part of what's made Madison so exciting is you feel you're there. I mean, that's the case with any major event now. The one that you
I think it's hysterical. Democracy is coming to America. Living in all the other places. Yeah, it just makes me laugh.
Yeah. What tell me for a minute, so you teach journalism here,
Yeah.
Is it, sort of change the curriculum every year, every few years?
Well, you have to teach them how to think and teach them how to
Yeah.
write no matter what. So that's sort of the basis of it. And Mark and Kimberly in 11th and 12th grade, I teach 9th and 10th, are incorporating multimedia into all of the reporting that goes on. And we have a student news action network, which we developed, Mark developed some years ago, which is international reporting from kids in international schools around the world.
This is perfect, yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's also challenging because you know, if you're trying to prepare people to be modern journalists, you have to teach them a skill set that is very, very broad, right? Broader than they report, you know, make a movie and et cetera, and it's challenging to figure that in an intelligent way into curriculum.
And just the basic old-fashioned skill set is not easy, and it's still very, very important. I mean, there are a lot of blogs out there that are very exciting and passionate and unintelligible because you can't quite figure out what they're talking about. The importance of being able to write clearly and to realize when it's time to bring in some context and write that clearly. Not at all easy. It's stuff that does tend to practice. I mean, in spite of the fact that I sort of, don't mourn the passage of the old-fashioned sort of, way that you went into journalism and rose in journalism. I actually treasure the fact that I spent a year and a half at the Winston-Salem Journal of North Carolina, which was actually, back then, it was a terrific regional paper. It was also, fairly well-known sort of incubator of young talent. The editors were used to sort of take in young people and teaching them the ropes. And one of my favorite things was they had back then we didn't have PCs, but we did have word processors of a sort. And the managing editor had one that had a subroutine that actually tested the grade level of your writing. And I just graduated from college, and I was used to writing these long clause-filled sentences and lots of fancy words. And he ran my stories through, and he said, "Son," he said, "you're writing at 14.5." He said, "I'm going to get you down to an 8." That's an 8th grade level. I mean, being able to write with the clarity of an 8th grade level is really hugely important. So yes, I don't know what I would do as a journalism educator, because on the one hand, I would want them to have a facility with video, which I think is going to be just a no-brainer 5 years from now. I think every journalist will have a video camera. I'd want them to understand about editing, so they understand what they're trying to shoot for, film editing, and have a familiarity with what makes a good tweet, and how do you find good information on social networks. But yeah, I mean, the basic writing thing is still the most important building block. And then kids after.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure that I ask a question, but I'll make it quick. I'm George Zidane. I graduated from West in 04, and I'm a fellow with the Institute for Education. The Huffington Post blogging model is very different than, like, say, New York Times or other standard media outlets that have much fewer bloggers. The Huffington Post has probably thousands. Did that sort of come about organically, or was that sort of consciously designed beforehand? What's behind the Huffington Post blogging model?
Well, it's a great business model. If you can get people to write for you for free. And once you started, I suspect it's hard to say no. I don't think, like a lot of things, I don't think it was really that conscious. I think the idea was that Ariana wanted to create a website that did a lot of different things, and among the things it did was let people express themselves, and she felt there were a lot of really intelligent people who had a lot of interesting things to say. So although reader comments are a big part of the site, the idea of having blogs there was also an essential part of that. The reality is that we do have hundreds and hundreds of bloggers and hundreds of blogs every day. and for people who are blogging, it's a great deal because they get the word out if they they get read if they want to get read. And also because of our ridiculously high Google search rank, when people search for something, they're likely to find something that's been our bloggers have written faster than a lot of other places. But the reality is that only a few of them really get read a lot. A small percentage of them actually make it to the left column of the front page or the various section fronts. And the further reality, don't tell this too many of our bloggers, is that the vast majority of traffic still doesn't really go to that left column. It tends to go to the news column in the middle and sort of the fluff column on the right. So it's in some ways not as central to our business model as people think, but it does add to the value. And we have some extraordinary bloggers who are just really smart, and obviously we have a handful of these celebrity bloggers as well. But I mean, some of the people who write for us, like Bob Kuttner and Drew Weston and Robert Reich and a whole bunch of other people. They're writing better stuff than anybody else out there. And so it's funny because people will come and suggest Ariana that we hire opinion writers. She's like, why? Best people writing opinion already. But I think letting people publish, is absolutely an essential part of the next generation of news websites.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Director. I'm a senior at West journalism student. I was wondering, so do you think the future of journalism is more not about getting the facts out and more about getting people's opinions?
That's a good question. No, I think that the facts are still what journalism is about. When I talk about sort of writing with a voice and writing with authority and so on, I'm not suggesting that I'm a big fan of fact-free sort of opinionizing. What I think is important is for people who really know their area to write with authority and based on facts. So what I'm doing right now, I'm writing reported stories. I write them though in a way that would be fairly unusual to find in the New York Times or Washington Post because I sort of reach conclusions, but they're based on facts. And in fact, with so many people being willing to blog and sort of express their opinions essentially for free, I mean there really is there is an eroding market for people to sort of express their opinions for money. What will be valuable is people finding facts. That will still be something that people will be paying for. Interviewing people and learning new things, and going out and seeing stuff. And, it's not just journalism that's changed so much. Just being a student, I would imagine it's so easy just to sort of think that everything that you need to know is on the internet somewhere. Well, it's not. And that's what journalism is really going to be about more and more, is bringing stuff that's not up there onto the internet. It's about reporting things that people don't want you to know. I mean, that's a huge, most things that are out on the internet are things people, kind of want you to know. We need to find out stuff that people don't want you to know and then publish that. And all that stuff is part of that's journalism, and that's fact-based, and that's still going to be the key to what you do. And I think there's still, to suggest that not every news story not every news story I write has this particularly strong voice or reaches strong conclusions. Some news stories I just think, look, here's some information and it's worth thinking about. There's some things that are a lot of things out there that are ambiguous.
Yeah, do you hope that the word blogging will kind of get a better meaning, I guess? Because I know a lot of people are very, I don't know if I'm going to go to Huffington Post because it's a blog site. I'd rather just pick a newspaper where there's concrete facts that have been processed and thought through, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, the nomenclature has always been a problem. I mean, I remember, what was it? This is back before when I was still working at the Washington Post website as an editor. So it would have been like 2002, 2003, and I was telling my boss that we should start doing blogs. And he was a real old-fashioned news guy. He was like, blog, terrible. And there still is some of them, and some of them are trash. I mean, blogs really, to me, the word blog is sort of like the word paper. It's just a format. It doesn't actually tell you what's on that paper. But yes, I think you're right. There's some Mhm.
And he said it was just this huge start because he was like internet savvy or something. It was weirder for him to be blogging about it because people don't take it seriously.
Mhm.
And
Who's your dad?
Bill Brubaker.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
No, but now I mean.
Bill's great.
Okay.
He's a real reporter. Yeah.
No, but it's just I have a hard time deciding whether to make that transition to like reading the internet because that's today's future. So
Yeah.
I don't really know.
No, the problem is that what I'm hoping for, and I've sort of been evangelizing this for a decade now, is that before these newsrooms all die out, we can take these great journalists like Bill and others and sort of free them from some of the constraints that actually prevent them from writing what they know to be true. So it's not a question of saying, hey, start, imitating Glenn Beck, or, you need to go and scream to get attention. The idea is, if you're writing about climate change, you don't feel you have to spend an awful lot of time, discussing the equal merits of the, climate skeptics. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to become a zealot. It just means you don't have to work, you can call it like you see it. I think beat reporters at newspapers are a tremendous pool of talent, and I hope that before papers like the Post, put them all out into early retirement, that they realize that these guys should be the centers of a discussion that's fact-based, on a website that has a trusted brand. What will happen to the Post? What will happen to the Post? I don't know. I mean, you can't just sort of come up with an easy label to describe any of these things anymore.
So what do we think about WikiLeaks? Talking about, getting the stuff people don't want to tell.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a huge fan of WikiLeaks, and I'm really kind of an absolutist in terms of free information. There are limits, but I don't think WikiLeaks actually hit them. And in fact, I think WikiLeaks is just what's been so fascinating to me is how threatened people are by WikiLeaks. In fact, this latest document dump, they didn't actually release, as far as I know, they had not released a single document that a news organization didn't actually basically ask them to release. In other words, they shared these documents with these news organizations, and the news organization said, okay, we want to write about these 10 cables, so release them. I mean, it's sort of a little known fact about WikiLeaks. But at this point, yes, you can make an argument that certain things need to be kept secret, obviously, but the balance has shifted so dramatically toward the government is making so many more things secret than ever before. 95% of those cables, you look at them and you go, that's kind of good to know these guys knew what they were talking about. I mean, it didn't reflect badly on anybody, and it just confirmed, it helped, it was a victory for reality. So I think there's a couple of areas of the internet that I've been really disappointed haven't come up as far as compared to what my expectations were. And one of them is whistleblowers, more whistleblowers using the internet to sort of explain to people what's really going on. I'm surprised at how little that's been going on. WikiLeaks is a very recent phenomenon, and it's also very limited. And the other is I've always hoped, and I still hope, that the internet will let individual people out there tell their stories. Right now, so many comments, so much of the reader comments, even in a site like Huffington Post, which really tries to mediate them and has a large volume and has a large community, are just sort of nasty hot shots. People people sort of screaming at each other and yelling at each other and so on. And what I really look forward to is people being able to tell stories. So, here's my story. Here's the story of my neighbor. Here's what happened to me the other day. I mean, that's the ability to spread that. Very exciting. So, anyway, I'm sorry.
Dan, let's take one more question
Yeah.
and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
What do you think some things that will be reported on because of the internet that were not reported on in the last couple of years or something? Like, are there some new areas of the
mean, I think that, you know, obviously, democracy movements in general are going to be tremendously more covered because of this. Things that would have, that you know, would have otherwise happened and been squelched by everybody knowing will not happen. It will not be known. So an awful lot of stuff that the authorities didn't want you to know, hopefully will, in all sorts of realms, will come out. I also think that in some way, I mean, this whole social networking world that you guys live every day that is so new, I think that you will find sort of a journalism of the networks, of the social networks going on, or where, and this goes back to what I was saying, which is in some ways maybe people, just like, you know, right now, you know, the things that are the most viral are, you know, videos of talking dogs or, you know, people falling off of things in really funny ways. You know, when people start to exchange stories about people, and people not like them. I mean, we still live in a very fragmented society. The internet thus far has actually probably made that worse rather than better by and large, in which people are more able to just sort of listen to people like them and spend time with people like them on the internet. So I think when we break through that and people start to get exposed to things that are different than they are, I think that'll happen. I think that'll be great. I think it'll be more likely to happen in this sort of viral world that we live in. So yeah, so things can move. Information can move something quickly too. And I think that